finish up this first round mock draft, and we've got some pretty good picks. Let me pull out. I got it written down on my notes app on my phone, so let me pull that up real quick. Because I have had my mock draft split up into 3 weeks, there are certain players that after the combine I had saw in the higher second round kind of, but now I see have made their way up to the first round. There's a couple individuals that I originally had in the second round that now I see, hey, they might be late first rounders on their performances.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see some of those, and we're going to see exactly how you agree with those, Nate.
Okay.
So we had the Dolphins last. That was our last pick. The Dolphins were picked 21. They picked Quincy Mitchell to kind of become that next Jalen Ramsey, because Jalen Ramsey's getting up there in age. We need somebody that can be that nickel corner and obviously play every single slot. Cornerback. If you want to play safety, you can. Ladd McConkey. He did good. He did good, but he's not a first rounder. I'm sorry. No first rounder for Ladd. No first rounder for Ladd, because we're gonna get to the first round. And Nate, you say what, but I honestly think that is a little bit of acting on your part, because you can't honestly tell me that Ladd McConkey.
He actually had a great he had a great showing.
He did. But the thing with the combine, Nate, it isn't a more of pushing you up into the first round. It's more of solidifying the pick that you were put previously. He's a very early second. Yes, I agree. He will be in the second round.
Yeah. All right.
But let's get into it.
Let's go.
Because I got a special person for this one, and I thought about it. We have a very, very heavy DB draft, specifically cornerback, and there's a lot of good ones. So for me to pick, dang, I hear them knocking again, but it's not my dorm. Thank goodness. I told them to come back later. A lot of people's got to take advantage while they can, because there's a lot of good CBs coming out of college. They got to take advantage. He's that good. That's a lot of bias too. Now, Bookie Watson won SEC Defensive Player of the Year, and he went to Mississippi State. But I'm not about to sit here and tell you that he's a first-round draft pick. He's very good. He beat Dallas Turner out for SEC Defensive Player of the Year. But he's slow for a linebacker. He will be drafted. I digress. You're getting me off track, Rob. So, Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock, Nate. What do the Philadelphia Eagles need? They're losing Fletcher Cox. They're losing Brandon Graham. I do not think they're going to sign them. They're going to let Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis take the reins at the D tackle position. Do they sign a defensive end? Do they get somebody like that? Well, we saw in that last playoff game where Big Play Slay, Darius Slay, Mississippi State's own, got injured. You saw that where he got carted off the field?
Mm-hmm.
So, in my mind, they need somebody, and his injury probably won't go throughout the whole next year, for sure. It won't be that long. But he's getting older. They ended up releasing him and then signing him for a much smaller contract before this past season. So let's do what the Dolphins just did in the previous pick. Let's pick somebody that can sit behind Darius Slay while he is still Big Play Slay, and let's make somebody big play someone. But what's their first name, Nate? What's your first name, Nate? What's it say on that red part of that shirt of yours?
Nate.
It's Nate. So the Philadelphia Eagles pick is in. They picked Nate Wiggins out of Clemson with the number 22 pick. This man he's been locked down. Now, my mom's a big Clemson fan, so I partake in watching Clemson a lot. And so when I see him, he reminds me of a person that was out at Clemson not too long ago. Do you know any Atlanta Falcon DBs, Nate, who I might be referring to?
Yeah, I know one in particular, DB.
Is he a cornerback?
He's a cornerback. Yeah, he played in the national championship.
Oh, what's his name, Nate? Do you remember?
Oh, I'm drawing a blank right now. He's a starting left. He was second team All-Pro about 2 or 3 years ago.
I mean, I can tell you. Does the name AJ Terrell sound?
AJ Terrell, yes, AJ Terrell.
Yes, and this guy might just be better than AJ Terrell because my mindset is when you have a successful position that goes into the NFL and becomes that successful position, like State, for example, they have very successful D tackles in the NFL.
Yes.
Yes.
Very, very.
So when that becomes a part of the recruiting process, and you have
DTU.
State and Ole Miss, for
DTU.
example,
DTU.
yes, DTU, you are going to pick Mississippi State over Ole Miss because you have
DTU.
seen that, yes, DTU, you have seen that these people have found success in the NFL. If they found success in the NFL going to Mississippi State, why can't I? Nate Wiggins found success at Clemson. AJ Terrell went to Clemson, is finding success in the NFL. Why can't Nate Wiggins find success in the NFL?
He can do it. All right, okay. All right, what you got next?
What I have next, okay? Who I got next? Who's on the clock next?
Who's on the
okay.
clock?
So we have a team that has, in my opinion, I can't tell it for sure, but as of right now, has obviously won the Deshaun Watson trade. We got a couple first rounders for Deshaun Watson. We maybe got a second rounder, but this first rounder this year was from this trade. And so at 23, we have the Houston Texans sitting at 23. They got Deshaun Watson traded to Cleveland. They gave him a couple first rounders. They got CJ Stroud now kind of balling out. You have a young quarterback who just took you to the playoffs.
Yes.
Your first instinct in this draft is, how can I build around this quarterback that just took me to the playoffs in his rookie season? Because you know that if he can take you to the playoffs his rookie season, he can take you to the playoffs his second year, his third year, his fourth year, and then so on and so forth. How do we protect and surround this quarterback with people that are going to have him be successful so that he can take us into the playoffs every single year and we become those contenders?
I'll probably get an offensive lineman to protect him, keep him upright, if there's a good offensive lineman.
But is there a good offensive lineman?
I don't know, because I honestly thought, to be honest with you, with the Philadelphia Eagles pick, I thought you were going to go center. So I'm
and I might have should have looked at that, but this was before he officially announced his retirement. I did a couple changes, but look, think about Michael Penix. How good Michael Penix was this past year in college.
It was great.
Yes, and I agree. The Texans' O-line situation is actually pretty good. And we have seen teams in the past still draft good players even though their situation was good. You have someone like Laramie Tunsil, he's aging, but he's still very good. And I love the fact of having people under your wing. We've seen the Packers do it for years with their quarterbacks, having somebody sit behind the veteran for 3 years and then coming out and becoming that veteran.
Yeah.
So let's keep that science with all positions. Okay. This can work with all positions. So give me Troy Fautanu, tackle out of Washington.
I knew it. I knew you was going to go. And it makes sense because, again, when you just hit the nail square on. You have a young quarterback that, again, he took you to the playoffs his rookie year, but okay, now we know that we have a team. Now you got to build off of that success, because it's not just making it to the playoffs. Playoffs is the beginning stage, but then you want to win a game in the playoffs. Not only win a game, but you want to go ahead and you want to make it to the next round. And the next round after that is the AFC Championship. And then after the AFC Championship is the Super Bowl. You want to build a team that's a Super Bowl contender. You don't want to build a team kind of like the Dallas Cowboys who will make it to the playoffs, but that's a great thing. And I don't want that to be taken or misconstrued or anything of that sort. But if you're a Cowboy fan, you're going to make it to the playoffs, but are you playing for something? What are you playing for? You make it to the postseason, that's one thing. But are you a team that's competing for a Super Bowl? That's the moniker you want to have. I love this pick, though. I love it.
I appreciate that. So let's get into the next pick. And I'm glad you brought somebody like the Dallas Cowboys up, because coincidentally, they're the next pick.
They're the next pick.
And they're on the clock. So I had to think. What was Dallas's number one struggle in this playoff game? Now, Dak did throw 2 picks.
I mean,
But
it was a couple of things. But there's a couple of things, though. You know what? To be honest with you, there's a couple of things. Defensively, they couldn't stop the run. They couldn't. Dallas is a fast team that is a team that likes to play from ahead, play with a lead. But when they're a team that has to come back, you know, their DNA gets exposed and whatnot. So it's a lot of things. You know, offensively, you know, they weren't that good offensively in the playoffs and whatnot. And they have a Jekyll and Hyde type of ordeal. When they're clicking, they're clicking. But the identity of this offense is hit or miss. Sometimes it's lukewarm. Sometimes they're hot. You know, when they get going, they can get going. But no running game, no nothing. I mean, it's a lot of things.
This is my mindset, Nate. If it ain't broke, fix it. Don't fix it. They were red hot in this regular season. Dak, arguably, I think should have won MVP. You know, Lamar Jackson is the only person that's won MVP in NFL history that was not top 10 in any quarterback stat.
Quarterback stat, yeah.
Yeah, that's insane to me. And we're going to do a breakdown episode later on an MVP snubs because I need to rant about that later because I was looking at it. You pick the one thing that took you out of a Super Bowl contention ship. And that one thing was not being able to stop the run.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you get that can aid you in stopping that run? Because you couldn't do it with that defense. For some reason, that defense.
You need a D tackle. You need a D tackle. You need a D tackle or a linebacker. Really, it's a D tackle. D tackle penetration. They can clog up run gaps and just push linemen into the running backs. Excuse me, that's Nemo. He's really happy to be right here. That's the thing right there.
D tackle maybe. I like the D tackle aspect. Is there a D tackle deserving enough for pick 24? I don't know. So my mindset for this one, Nate. Their pick is in. They don't pick a D tackle, but they pick somebody that is versatile enough to do it all. They pick Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker out of Texas A&M, and this guy
I was talking about earlier.
Yes, this guy can spot the ball, and much like Buki at State, he can spot the ball. He knows how to get to it. He knows how to disrupt a pass. He knows how to stuff a run. He just knows football.
Yeah, he's a football player.
He's a football player. When he sees the football, he goes to it. It doesn't matter if it's in the running back's hand, the quarterback's hand, the wide receiver's hands. He knows what's going on when and where the ball is. So the Cowboys not only fix a running issue, but they fix a defensive issue because if you don't want this guy being a run stuffer, you don't have to because he can disrupt a pass. If you can do virtually anything you want with this guy, he's a puzzle piece that may fit to complete the puzzle you need to go farther in the playoffs. And if it doesn't fit, then put him somewhere that fits. Because you got more than one piece to complete a puzzle.
Okay.
And this might just be many of them.
All right.
Pick. Okay. So next pick, like I said, very cornerback heavy draft. So the Dallas Cowboys are on the clock. Besides Jair Alexander, I don't see any help much in that. And then the Packers traded Rasul Douglas to the Bills, I think. And who's their safeties? Can't even think of their safeties.
What, the Bills?
The Packers.
The Packers?
Who are the Packers safeties? I should have looked at that before I even – because it doesn't even – MJ would know, and I hate that. And I hope MJ doesn't pop on. MJ, don't pop on if you can hear. Okay, it's Darnell Savage and Jonathan Owens. Okay, first of all, Jonathan Owens is a very media click player. I don't think I've seen him be outstanding like Jair. And I'm not trying to dog on Jonathan Owens. You know he's Simone Biles' husband, so we gotta be nice to him because of all the things. And Darnell Savage is good. I like. Oh, he's on the way out. Okay, which makes my pick even more deserving. Okay, thank you, Jack, for giving us that. Which makes my pick even more deserving. So besides Jair, I don't see anything outstanding in that secondary. There's not something that clicks with me in that secondary. So let's fill it up. So the the Packers pick Cooper DeJean, quarterback out of Iowa. I think he's the next best cornerback on this draft class. Iowa had a top defense this year, and he was a piece in that defense. And so the Packers see that. Hey, who was a contributor in that big Iowa defense they had this past college football season? Cooper DeJean. We won him. We got him. We're going to make him outstanding. Pick number 25 to the Packers. Jack says the perfect Packer. Finally, a pick Jack likes. A pick Jack likes in my mock draft. Thank you, Jack. Okay, Nate, you want to go to the next one? What do you think about that pick? You like it, or you don't
Cooper
like it?
DeJean?
You indifferent? Yeah, you indifferent, or you just really don't have an opinion.
I think it's a solid pick. It could be a solid pick. It can be a solid pick.
Can be. Okay,
It
we'll
can
see
be
what
a solid
happens
pick,
then.
though.
Okay, next pick. 2026 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I actually looked at this, and originally I had a cornerback here. But after reading and thinking and looking at stuff, I was like, man, there's a guy on here that I think made it into the first round that I did not originally have. Yeah, right. That I did not originally have in this draft class. So instead of defense, what I originally thought the Buccaneers were going to pick, because they have Antoine Winfield Jr. They don't know if they're going to franchise tag him or not. They're trying to have negotiations with him.
No, Antoine, they did.
They finally they did it. Okay. I didn't know if they did or not. I started thinking, I mean, they just gave Mike Evans a bunch of money. They gave him $52 million for 2 years. I think $36 million guaranteed.
Worth every penny.
And Chris Godwin
Every penny.
Chris Godwin was very, very good, and he's just been – I don't know what happened to Chris Godwin. So let me introduce you to the Buccaneers' new star wide receiver. For pick number 26, the Buccaneers select – I don't even know how to pronounce it. Adonai Mitchell. Yeah, out of Texas.
Mitchell was nice. He had a really good showing.
Yes. Rob should like this pick.
Running 4.3. A good hands, nice. I think it was 11-foot standing broad jump, 39 on the vertical. I was very, very impressed with his showing. I think that's a great pick.
And I was impressed with Xavier Worthy and his record-breaking 40-yard dash. But my mindset is you can't. But we look at somebody like John Ross, who had the record previously. Not as good as we thought he was going to be. Not as good. So you can't teach speed, but you can't solely go off speed. Yeah. So I like Xavier Worthy. His routes are good. He's a little smaller in my opinion, but my favorite guy in the entire group. Right. Yes. So that's my pick number 26.
Good pick.
Okay. Good pick. 27. Okay. Texans trade up to number 3. They get Will Anderson last draft. Cardinals had number 3. They traded back and said, okay, the Texans are probably going to be a higher pick this next season. They're not going to be good. They're rebuilding. They can't be good, right? That's just the rebuilding process, right? Well, they ended up being number 27 in the draft this season. So the Arizona Cardinals had the 27th draft pick. And I started thinking, who do they need? And I had a center here because I thought a center would be a good pick here. But because of how versatile tackles are nowadays, if you want a center, you can make them another lineman. And there's not somebody in this draft besides Mims from Georgia that I think should be here other than J.C. Latham out of Alabama. If you want a center, you can make one. They say if you got lemons, make lemonade. Well, Arizona Cardinals, I'm giving you lemons. It is your decision if you want to make lemonades, if you want to make lemon meringue pie. You choose. You pick and choose. If you want him to be a tackle, what? We'll see. He's a run game bully, and Mims is better in Rob's opinion, but we're going to see. I hate that I'm going to say it right now. I snubbed Mims from this list. And I hated that because I really, really liked him, and especially in his combine. But these next 5 picks, Nate, you're going to see why I snubbed him from this list. And pick next is the Buffalo Bills are on the clock.
Ooh, we're on the clock. Buffalo.
Yes, Buffalo's on the clock. They had somebody like Gabe Davis decided to leave. You don't know how long, much longer, in fact, Stephon Diggs is going to stay in Buffalo.
You don't.
You saw Mr. Heisman winner Jaden Daniels get picked in the top 3 this earlier in the day in this draft. Who contributed to his success? Okay, well, Malik Neighbors, but he's off the list. Oh, is it an O lineman that helped him out? Is another wide receiver? Nate. There were some 2 stud wide receivers in LSU this year. And the Buffalo Bills just so happened to pick the second one. Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver out of LSU. Give me him for Buffalo.
I hadn't been seeing, where, because he was a really, really good counterpart for Malik Neighbors on the other side of Malik Neighbors. If that's his name, right?
Malik Neighbors. Yes.
LSU, yeah. They were both a really, really good tandem. So I like this pick. I really do.
But let's see how well he can complement Stephon Diggs on the other side. Let's see how well he can do that. So give me Brian Thomas. I think he'll be a good complement, be what the Bills need. Which brings me to one of my favorite picks. Might be my favorite pick in this draft. The Detroit Lions.
The ending of the draft. The ending of the first round. All right, let's see.
Yes, the Detroit Lions are notorious for making unpredictable moves in this first round. So I thought like a Detroit Lion for a second. I thought like Dan Campbell. They picked Jahmyr Gibbs, who was not even close to being scouted in the first round last draft, maybe the second round. And they ended up picking him at like number 12 or whenever they picked him. I can't remember. But let's think about that again. Let's think about somebody who's really, really good, but might not necessarily be picked in the first round. You have someone like Aiden Hutchinson on one end of your line, and you're like, well, I don't really need another end because I have him. Or do you? You just stocked up. You signed David Montgomery before the draft, but you still ended up drafting Jahmyr Gibbs. You studded up on your running backs. Let's stud up on defensive ends.
Mm-hmm.
Let's stud up on defensive ends. A man who was instrumental in this Cotton Bowl win versus Ohio State. Detroit Lions picked Darius Robinson, defensive end out of Missouri, to pair up with Aiden Hutchinson. He's a bad man. I've seen him in person, Nate. He is huge.
I thought you were going to go more D tackle. I had the sense of D lineman. I did have the sense of D lineman. I was talking to a friend, Antoine, and I was told, I will be tackle. Somebody that can actually help Aiden Hutchinson, that can actually take the focus off of him, and he can get more one-on-ones and so forth and whatnot. But I love this pick.
And you're right. Like, okay, why don't you pick a D tackle? Well, let's think about it. If you have a one really strong one side and not a very strong other side, what's going to happen? You're going to end up getting double teamed on one side, and then the other side is just going to be able to get one-on-one easily. But if you have 2 really strong players on either side of the line, you might get double teamed both players, but it's going to cause those weaker players on the inside to slip through and maybe make a play. So it's just the way the schemes works in Detroit. I think this is a good pick. Give me Darius Robinson in Detroit.
And I'm gonna tell you, I was on that Detroit roster. We made it to the playoffs, both years. And we had Ndamukong Suh, we had Nick Fairley, we had Ziggy Ansah, Jason Jones, CJ Mosley. We had a nasty D line, and you had to pick your poison about who you were going to double team, because one-on-one with those specimens, oh man. Go ahead, Connor. I apologize.
But I agree. You pick your poison, and sometimes you might pick the poison that kills you.
Yeah.
And we're gonna leave it at that. So let's get to the Ravens are next. I thought about this. And I just have to default to how good this defensive back class is. And originally I had Kool-Aid McKinstry here because I just love his name and I felt like he might sneak into the first round. I said no. Let's not put Kool-Aid there. That is more of an emotional pick than a logical pick. Let's pick somebody that fulfills this
Sure.
Ravens defense needs. Now, we just saw Darius Robinson picked. Now, defense is not good with just one really good player. You have multiple pieces to the puzzle. So, who was another contributor to that Missouri defense? And it's crazy that I'm picking Missouri back to back. And this guy is a bad dude. He's a bad dude. And the Ravens love picking their bad dudes. I mean, you saw Ray Rice, right? Right. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. Don't cancel me. Don't cancel me. Oh, Jack, I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you said it. Give me Rakestraw Jr., cornerback out of Missouri. And Jack said it better than I could. Fills the Ravens needs.
Very competitive. Very competitive. Good player. Good player. We'll be able to plug him in and just really be able to get his feet wet instantaneously. So that's a good pick.
In these next two picks, 32 I had locked in of who I thought was going to pick 32. 31, I had to switch around a little bit because of how good I saw this guy at the Senior Bowl, because of how good I just saw him perform at the Combine. I moved him up the first round, deservingly so. The San Francisco 49ers are on the clock. And originally I thought they were going to pick a tackle or a center here. And I was like, do they need an O-lineman? Is that something that they want to pick the first round? And I kept thinking, no. I want to say O-lineman, but no. They're not going to pick an O-lineman. They're going to pick – they just signed all these defensive players on their roster to have that depth, and all of them are basically gone now. So let's keep that depth going. Let's pick a man who was on one team during the Senior Bowl. Got a call the morning of the game, said, hey, can you swap teams for the game? Are you going to be able to learn this next defensive scheme and be able to get plugged in? Yeah, coach, I can do that. This man's a bad dude. Ended up transferring. His story is amazing. Successful ball player. Give me Braden Fiske. Tackle out of Florida State.
You know what? I thought he was more of a second-round guy, depending.
I thought so too.
I like him.
Until I saw him learn and he didn't just learn the entire defensive scheme, Nate. He won defensive player for their team. He won that award as the best defensive player for their team. And he was on the team the morning of the game. And then I saw him show out in the Combine, and I was like, you know what? That's just the lock for me. I got to put him in the top. And he might be he's still in the first round. He still gets first round money. Pick number 31. Give me Fiske.
Gotcha.
And so this next pick, Nate, I thought about it. And I thought how nasty this guy might be on the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl champs, because they just released Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And there's somebody that I think would just be nasty on here. You know, you got to take a chance when you see one. This is a chance that the Kansas City Chiefs know how to take. And if it doesn't work out, you just saw Patrick Mahomes win a Super Bowl with the 29th best wide receiver core in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So let's help Patrick Mahomes out. What's the initials of Kansas City, Nate?
KC.
KC, right? So the pick is in, Nate. Who has the initials KC that you can think of off the top of your head?
Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid? How about Keon Coleman, wide receiver out of Florida State?
Okay. You know, he balled out like before the quarterback. He was balling out before their quarterback got hurt. This guy was special.
Now, my buddy is a big Florida State fan, and we just picked Missouri, Florida State. Don't matter what team they went to as long as they're a good player. He said when they, if you're one-on-one and the quarterback chucks it up, it's a jump ball, right? It's whoever can get to it first. He said that it's not called a jump ball when Keon Coleman's in the area. It's called a Keon Coleman ball when Keon Coleman's in the area one-on-one. Mm-hmm. And so I started looking. You want to say I'm Jordan during this show. Look at Keon Coleman. Look at how high Keon Coleman can jump on those jump balls. So the Kansas City Chiefs, they really put the KC in Kansas City, and they take Keon Coleman to end off the first round.
Get on their head. I like it.
and then
Okay,
that's
okay,
it.
okay.
Oh, he
All
was
right.
on Michigan State's basketball team, what Jack said. I didn't know
It
that.
makes sense. I like it. I like it.
But I
Okay.
appreciate you dedicating time for me to go over these picks throughout the past couple weeks. It's been a pleasure, and I'm very appreciative of it.